everyone, this is Monalisa and you are watching Supervision. Today we'll discuss simple codes and R programming language. So, in order to run the code of R programming language, we need two things. First of all, we have to install R programming language itself and we have to install R Studio. So what is it R Studio here? R Studio is an IDE to run the R programming. Okay, and R programming language is what? This is a language or this is a programming language that is used for statistical computing, and this is also used to visualize the data. That means if we have data set, we can visualize the data through various charts and graphs through the R programming language. So we can also form clusters, we can also do correlation analysis, we can also do cluster analysis, we can also do the analysis of how data can be reduced to get the better data for the data analysis purpose. Everything can be done with the help of R programming language. And this is a very popular language used nowadays frequently, and this is also freely available. You do not have to pay for that, right? So, in order to run R programming language, keep this in mind that you need R Studio. So R Studio, I have to show you a few things that after installing R and R Studio, you have to search your R Studio. Let I'm searching in the search bar, that is R Studio, then click on enter. So whenever you click on enter, you will just see that this is the interface of R Studio. So in order to open a new file, click on the file menu, click on new file, click on R script, right? So now you can see that there are four panels in front of you. So this is the first panel, this is second panel, this is third panel, and this is fourth panel. So the first panel is called code editor, second panel is called console panel, third panel is called environment panel, and fourth panel is for plotting. That means if you want to plot something, if you want to look at the packages, if you want to know how many files are there in our system and the files we have created, we can use this panel, right? So if we have a graph, we have plotted a graph or chart, we can also export the graph into a file or into any PDF format, into an image. If you want to copy that graph or chart, we can also make the help, use the help of this fourth panel, right? So in this code editor, we have to write the code and the output is displayed in the console panel. And you can see that in case of environment section, so whatever the things you are doing in your program, everything will be displayed here. That means if you are working with a variable, if you are working with any function and the values stored against that variable, everything, that means those are called the object of R, right? So all the objects in R, that whatever you have just implemented, any variables, any functions, any commands in your program, everything, any file you have used, everything will be displayed in the environment section. That means you can know that in my program I have used these variables and these values I have also taken. So this is the environment section. And one more thing that you understood, that in case of code editor, you can also write the code. In case of console panel, you can also write the code, right? Suppose you are writing any code in the console, suppose you are working with the already built data set and you are writing the code in the console, you can see that the output can be displayed in the code editor also. Okay, so both the code editor and the consoles, the role is interchangeable. We can also write the code in code editor. We can also write the code in console, and the output can be shown in the code editor also. Output can be shown in the console also. But generally, we prefer code editor for writing the code and console for getting the output. But that doesn't mean that the work is specified only. You can the functionality of the code editor and the console is interchangeable. We can use both the panel for both the purposes. process for inputting the code for getting the output, right? So let's next go to our code. Here we will study about R vector, right? So R vector is what? That vector in R programming language is a list of items of similar data type. That means as we have studied array in C, that means vector in R is equal to array in C. So as we have studied what is the meaning of array in C, that array is a list of items of similar data type. That means if you can write here, if you remember that the C coding was int x of 3, right? Int x of 3. Here, what is the meaning of this statement? X is a variable that consists of 3 elements and all the elements are of integer type. So what we can say, x is an array. That means it is a now collection of 3 integer type variables. So similar way, vector in R means it is a list of items of similar type, right? So we can create vector in R using this C function. So what is this C stands for? C is nothing but the meaning is combination, combine or concatenation, right? So if we are using C function and within this parenthesis we are writing something separated by comma, we can say that we are creating R vector. Clear? Let's take an example. Suppose we want to create a vector of strings. That means we want to create a vector that will consist of the variables of string type. So string type means combination of characters should be there. And whenever in R we are just representing the strings, those can be enclosed with a single quote or double quote. Remember that. So you can either enclose using single quote or you can enclose with double quote. There is no issue, both are correct. So I have to create a vector of strings. So how can I do that? I will write C function. That means I have to combine, I have to concatenate, and I need strings. I am writing here banana, I am writing here apple, I am writing here orange. That means these are three strings I have. As I want to create a vector, so I will put the strings in C function and those should be separated with comma. So let this now, this vector is created and we have to store the vector in a variable that is called fruits. So in order to get that whether we have inserted values in the vector or if we want to see the elements in the vector created, we have to display the variable. So if you will write print fruits or only fruits in RStudio, you will see that all these values will be displayed. So let's test this. So we have the variable fruits is equal. We are creating the vector. So vector of strings. So I am putting here apple and this is banana, here orange, right? Okay. Then I have to show the elements. Then I will do what? I will just print the variable. Okay, I will print the variable. So the variable is fruits. So let's either you can select these two statements, click and run. So when you click and run, you can see that banana, apple, banana, orange, the things, the elements that I have taken to create the vector is now displayed, right? So either you can select the statements, click and run, or directly after writing this, you can click control and enter to get the output. So both are correct. Next thing is, next example, we can create a vector of numerical values. This was the vector of strings. We can also create the vector of numerical values. So let the values, numerical values I want to put, that is 1, 2 and 3. So these elements should be separated with comma, and as we want to create a vector, so we should put that in C function. So we write that C within bracket 1 comma 2 comma 3. That means now the vector of numerical value is created and we want to store the vector in a variable numbers, right? So if we want to get the value stored in the vector, we have to print the variable, right? So either you directly write numbers, select these two and click on run, or you can write here print numbers within bracket numbers. You select both two and click on run, right? So let's check this. So let I am writing here, let the variable is C1. Here I am writing the elements as 1 comma 2 comma 3. Then I want to print the elements, so I will write here print within bracket the variable that is C1. So select this, click on run. So when you run, you can see that the elements that were used to create the vector are now displayed, that is 1, 2 and 3. Okay, so next you can see that we can also create vectors with numerical values but in a sequence. That means if we want to get the numerical values in a sequence, that should be a vector also. So we can create that using the colon. That means here I can write that numbers is a variable and that is equal. Either you can write equal to assign the value or less than hyphen symbol to assign the value. So both are correct. So here numbers is equal 1 is to 10. That means we have to store, we want to display the values from 1 to 10. That means we are now in the position to create the numerical values in a sequence. That means if we are writing from 1 to 10, this column signifies the range, right? So what is the range here? I want to start from 1. I want to end with 10, right? So I want to display the numerical value. These are the numerical values and whenever I will run this will be in a sequence starting from 1 to 10. So now this is a vector with numerical values in a sequence. So it will print numbers, we can say the values displayed from 1 to 10 in a sequence. So we can also test this. So let I am writing C2 is equal 1 is to 10 and we have to print this C2, right? So you can write here C2. Then just select all these things, click on run. So whenever you will run, you can see, so the vector of numerical values are shown but in a sequence starting from 1 to 10. So here colon signifies that we want to display in a range starting from 1 ending with 10 in a sequence. I think I am clear up to this. Next, you can see that we can also create a vector with a numerical decimal. Okay, numerical decimal values but in a sequence. So we can write here, this is the decimal value, this is the decimal value and this the variables are called what? The numerical decimals. So whenever we'll create a vector, either you can directly write this or you can write here also C within bracket 1.5 is to 6.5. This column signifies the range, that means we have to display from 1.5 to 6.5. So all the things will be displayed in a sequence. So we can also create a vector with numerical decimals in a sequence. So if we will display numbers 1, that means the variable here. So we can get the output from 1.5 to 6.5. So let's check this. Let us write here C3 is equal C, that means we want to create a vector from 1.5 to 6.5. Okay, so we have taken the range and the values are numerical decimal and I want to display the values from this range up to this range but in a sequence. So I have just created a vector and I assigned the value to C3. So let I want to get the values, then I will print. Okay, so click on this print, then write the variable. Okay, so after selecting this, click on run. You can see that the values are displayed from 1.5 to 6.5. The range is now satisfied from 1.5 to 6.5, and the values are in a sequence, you can see now. Okay, so in this way we can create the decimal, a vector of decimal numbers in a sequence. Okay. Next thing, we can also create vector with numerical decimals in a sequence where the last element is not used. Okay. So if we will give the values, if we will give the odd values, like that means 1.5 it is starting and it is ending with 6.3, and we need, these are what? These are the numerical decimals, right? And we need that in a sequence because we have given the colon symbol here. We need this in a sequence, and whenever you will see, the output will be displayed as 1.5, 2.5, 3.5, 4.5 and 5.5. It won't take 6.3 because 6.3 is not in a sequence, right? So how can you get that? You have to create a vector. Either you can write here numbers is equal. Okay, numbers is equal. Let us writing. This is one way of writing the code, or you can write also numbers 2 is equal C. That means combine or concatenation. That means we have to create the vector here starting from 1.5. This is 1.5 is to 6.3. Okay, this is the range. So whenever if you want to see the values, if you want to display the variables, that is numbers 2. So whenever you display the variable number 2, you can get the values as 1.5, 2.5, 3.5, 4.5, 5.5. And if we have given 6.5, we can have get the 6.5. But as we have given the odd value, that is not in a sequence, that is 6.3 is given here. So it won't display 6.3. That means here we have created a vector with numerical decimals in a sequence where the last element is not used. Right? I think up to this I am clear. Then we can create a vector of logical values. So logical values means it has two values, that is true or false. That means T or F, 1 or 0, right? So in our programming language, R is case sensitive. So it has something stored in the capital letter. So you have to write that in capital letter. So the logical value, that is true and false, it is considered in capital letter in case of our programming language. So do not write this in the small letter. So if you write true in small case or lower case, that will not be considered as logical values. That will be considered as a variable by our programming language. So make it sure that you are writing properly, because if we will write here, if I am writing print in capital letter, okay, print within bracket x, that means I want to print x, and I am writing in small case, that is print within bracket x. Okay, here in both cases you can see, you can say that these are similar, but these are not similar, because print, this is a function, this is an object recognized by by our programming language, and this is used to print the value stored in x. But if you write print in capital letter within x, the value you want to print, that is x, this will give you an error. So this statement will give you an error, because this print in capital letter, this print function or print command in capital letter is not recognized by our programming language. So that's why I'm saying that our programming language is case sensitive. Small case and uppercase are different. So we are discussing about the vectors of logical values. So logical values means true and false. Let I have to create a vector of logical values. So I have given the values, logical values as true, false, and I am keeping that within C function. That means I want to create a vector. And this logical vectors, the values are stored in log underscore values. So if I want to display what are the logical values stored in a vector that is being created, I have to display this log values, this variable. Either you directly write log underscore values, or you can write that within print within bracket log underscore value. So you will get the value, that is true, false, true and false. So let's check this. So let I am writing here C4 is equal. I want to make a vector of logical values. So I will write here false, true, false, right? Then I want to display the vector. I have created the vector with logical values. I want to display the vector. So what we'll do now, I will write print C4 or simply C4. Select these two lines, click on run. So whenever you run, you can see the values stored in a vector is now being displayed. The logical values is now being displayed. This is false, true and false, right? So up to this, I think everything is clear. Next few functions we can have on the vector, that means we can find the length of a vector. So using this length function. So length of a vector means how many elements are there in a vector. So whenever we are creating a vector, we are putting some elements. So the length of the vector signifies that the vector that is being created consists of how many elements, right? So let's we are creating a vector that is fruits with the elements banana, apple and orange. So if I want to know that if the vector that is created and the value is stored in fruits, how many elements are there in fruits? So we can write here length within bracket fruits. So whenever we will write this, you can have get the value, the number of elements stored in this vector, right? So let's run this. Let I am writing here x1 is equal C. The elements are apple, then banana, right? Then I want to find the length. So I can write here length function and within bracket the variable that stores the vector, right? So after selecting these two statements, click on run. So whenever you run, you can see the length of this vector x1 or the variable that stores the vector is 2. That means we have taken only two elements. First is apple, second is banana. So this vector that is being created consists of two elements. So the length of this vector that is created is 2. Next, we can sort the vector also. That means we can sort the elements alphabetically or numerically using the sort function. Okay, so sort command or sort function is a function that is used to sort the elements, right? So next, let we want to create a vector. The elements we want to put, that is 13, 3, 5, 7, 20 and 2. And as we are putting that in C function, that means this is a vector now with numerical values, and we are storing that vector in a variable that is number. So if you want to sort the elements, because the elements are not sorted, right? So if you want to sort the elements, we want to write sort function within bracket the variable. Here the variable is numbers. So let's check what is the output here. Let this is x2 is equal. I want to create a vector. Let the elements are 13, 6, 2. This is 34, right? And I want to sort the vector. So I will write here sort function. Then within bracket I want to write the variable where the vector is stored. So variable is x2. Okay. So just select these two and click on run. So whenever you run, you can see that the elements are now sorted, that is 2, 6, 13 and 34, right? So in this way we can run. Next part is that how can we access the vectors. So we can access the elements of a vector. Whenever we create a vector, it consists of few elements of similar type. So we can access the elements of vector through the square bracket. and giving the index value starting from 1, 2, etc. Right? So let we have created a vector with the strings. That means we have created the vector of strings here and we are storing the values in fruits. So let I want to access the first element. The first element is here banana. So what will I write here? I have to use the square bracket and the index value. So one will say the first element in the vector 2, if you are getting writing the index 2, that means the second element in the vector and so on, right? So if I am writing this variable fruits, because the elements, the vector is now stored in the fruits variable. So if I am writing the variable along with the index value within the square bracket, so if I run this, I can have only banana instead of apple and orange, because I want to access the first element in this fruits variable. That means in the entire vector that is created, I want to access the first element. So I can write in this way. Okay. So let I can write here. Uh, Suppose the x3 is a variable and I want to create a vector that is 10, 20 and 30, right? I want to access this first element x3 square bracket 1, okay. You can see the output is now 10 because here I have written I need first element of the vector that is stored in x3, right? The first element that is stored in x3. So within square bracket we have to write the index from which we have to get the value, right? So this is the way. So if you want to get more than one elements, you can write the index separated with comma. So let the siege of vector be created with the strings and the vector is stored in a variable fruits. Let I want to access first element and the third element. So this is first element, this is second element, this is third, this is fourth and this is fifth element. So what will I write here? So I have to write the variable where the vector is stored. This is fruits and within the square bracket I have to write the index. So the index will be 1 and 3 because I have to access banana and orange. So as these two variables we need to combine, so we write that with C and 1 comma 3. So if we write this, we can have access this first and the third element. Okay. So this is one way. And another element, another way of accessing the elements in a vector are, so suppose negative index, right? So negative index means if this is the negative index, that means we have to ignore the first element and accept the first element, all other elements will be displayed. So either you can display a single element or you can display number of elements in a vector or accepting one excluding one single element, you can also display rest of the elements. So let we have created a vector of strings here, okay, and I want to access the all the elements except the first one. That means I do not need banana, but I want to access the rest of these elements. So what can I do? I have to use the negative index. So whenever the vector is created, we have stored the vector in the variable fruits. So I will write here fruits and within square bracket, I want to write C. That means within the square bracket, within the parenthesis, I have to write the negative index. That means I do not need this one, that means first index element, and excluding this first index element, I need rest of the elements. So I write here C within parenthesis minus 1. So this is called negative index. C stands for combine, right? So by writing this, we can have access all the elements except the first element. Okay, here. Next, I can change the elements also. So how can I change the elements? Suppose I have created the vector with these elements. That means I have created a vector of string and I just store the vector in a variable fruits and I need to change the first element. So what will I do here? I will write fruits. This is the vector where it is stored, fruits variable, and within square bracket I want to write the index at which I want to change the value. Suppose I want to replace banana with another string. So banana is in the first index, so I will write what? Fruits. Fruits means this variable where the vector is stored and the index is 1, then is equal or this less than and hyphen symbol you can write, and the value I want to replace. So I want to replace with, that means let I want to replace banana with pear, so I will write here pear. So when I will click on fruits or I will print fruits, it will show me pear, apple, orange, mango and lemon, right? So let run this. Let I'm just showing x4 and x4 is equal. Let I'm creating a vector of strings, that is banana, then apple, right? Then I want to change the element at the second position. That means this is the first position. The element is banana. Second position, the element is apple. So I want to replace the element in the second position with orange, right? Then whenever I will display this x4 variable, then what I can write here, print x4. Then here just select all these things, click and run. You can see that the vector is now displayed banana and orange. This apple at the second index is now replaced with another string, that is orange, right? I think up to this it is clear. So in this way we can also change the value or item in a string. Okay. One more thing, that if you want to display the sequence from a range, then we want to display the sequence in a gap. That means we can use this parameter, that is bar. That means we need a sequence. This sequence function is there. We need from 0 to 100, but the elements should be displayed with a height of 20. That means first of all 0, then 20, then 40, then 60, then 80, then 100. So I need to start from 0. I need to complete with 100, but the elements should be with the increase of 20. And I want to display that in a sequence. So I can use here sequence function, right? And the values are stored in numbers. So whenever I will print numbers, you can see the elements, right? So let's check it. Let I am writing here x5 is equal. So sequence function is there. So 2 is equal 0. From is equal 0. From, this is from is equal 0, and this 2 is equal 100, and by is equal 20. That means we are starting from 0. We want to store to 100 and the elements should be increased by 20. So let's display this x5, right? So x5. So whenever you will display that, select and click on run. So you can see the elements are starting from 0, ending with 100, but the elements are in the increasing order of 20. So 0, 20, 40, 60, 80 and 100. So in this way also you can display the elements in a vector, right? So here, next, last one is, we can repeat the sequence also, right? We can repeat the sequence. So for that, we have to use the function that is rep. So rep means repeat the sequence. So let I want to repeat a sequence. Let I have created a vector, that is 1, 2, 3 vector of numerical values within C function. So up to this we have created a vector, right? So we want to repeat that. So we'll repeat that how many times? The times is a parameter, that is 3. That means we want to repeat 1, 2, 3 3 times. So we have to put all the things in the function that is repeat. So everything now it is stored in repeat underscore times variable. So whenever I will just display or print this repeat underscore times variable, you can see that 1, 2, 3. This vector is created thrice. That means 3 times. As we have given times, the repeat times is equal 3, right? So in order to repeat a sequence, you have to write the parameter times, that how many times you want to repeat the vector. So you can give the value as per your convenience. If you want to repeat that 4 times, 5 times, 10 times, you can give as your values. And what you want to repeat, you have to create a vector. So here we have created a vector with numerical values. So 1, 2, 3 within this function C. And we have to combine all the things with repeat function, that is REP repeat function, so that your sequence can be repeated. So this is all about the simple codes in our programming language. I think I am very clear to everyone. So if you want to ask me anything, if you need much more video, kindly comment in the comment box. So thank you everyone. Thanks for watching. If you like the video, then just share the channel, subscribe the channel, and thank you so much for watching.